There is a moment, subtle, quiet, almost unnoticeable, when the world around you begins to rearrange itself in response to your inner shift. Not a shout, not a flash, not a storm, but a whisper in the stillness. And if you're not listening, you might miss it. You have asked, you have imagined, you have assumed. Now the universe begins its sacred work. But how do you know it's happening? How do you know that the unseen forces have heard your command and are now in motion, turning the intangible into the tangible, the invisible into the visible? You know by the signs, not signs in the sky or symbols in books, but the signs that rise within your own being. The shift does not begin outside of you. It begins with a sensation, a stirring, a new inner rhythm, as if your soul is marching to a different drum beat. And the old world, sensing that it is being left behind, trembles. When you are shifting into your desired reality, the first sign is a deep inner restlessness, not of fear, but of readiness. The same way the earth cracks before the seed breaks through, you begin to feel that what once fit you now feels tight, too small, too familiar. You no longer belong in the places you used to settle. You are being summoned into your own becoming. This is not a warning, it is a blessing. The discomfort is proof that the new reality has already been conceived. Like the early labor pains before the birth, your soul is preparing to bring forth what your imagination has dared to see. What you have seen in the stillness is now moving toward visibility. The second sign is detachment from identities, opinions, limitations, and even outcomes. You begin to let go of needing things to happen in a certain way. This is not surrender to fate. It is mastery over illusion. You no longer chase the world, you draw it to you. You no longer beg for evidence. You rest in knowing. You begin to walk differently, not arrogantly, but sovereignly. There is a stillness in your step, a hush in your heart, as if you have touched something sacred and now carry it within you, because you have. The third sign, your reactions begin to change. Where once you would erupt in anger, now you pause. Where once you would doubt, now you decide. You do not beg for signs, you become one. You are no longer controlled by what is, you are guided by what is becoming. People around you may notice the shift before you do. They might say you seem different, quieter, bolder, more focused. And they'll be right, because your vibration no longer speaks the language of your old life. You are now fluent in faith. And then, without fanfare, without trumpet or parade, you begin to experience moments of uncanny alignment. You think of someone and they appear. You desire something and it arrives. You speak of a dream and suddenly the path clears. These are not coincidences. These are confirmations. Your assumptions are hardening into fact. Your imagined world is becoming real. The signs are everywhere, but they do not scream, they whisper. The fourth sign is the silence of fear. It doesn't mean fear never visits. It means it no longer makes decisions. Where fear once sat on the throne, now you do. You may still hear its voice, but it no longer commands your steps. You move forward anyway, and that forward movement becomes your anthem. You begin to understand you are not waiting for life to change. Life is responding to you. It is echoing your tone, your energy, your command. You have spoken to the universe correctly, not with words, but with conviction. And now it bends to your will. The fifth sign is clarity, not of how, but of who. You no longer ask how the dream will unfold. You only ask, who must I be to dwell in its fulfillment? And then you become that version, quietly, faithfully, moment by moment. This is the sacred art of embodiment, to dwell in the feeling of the wish fulfilled before the facts ever agree. And as you do, the facts begin to obey. New people appear, not as saviors, but as reflections. Opportunities arrive, not as accidents, but as responses. The world outside begins to mirror the world within, and the line between them begins to blur. This is the great merging, the collision of what you've imagined and what you now inhabit. The sixth sign is gratitude before proof. You feel grateful not because it's here, but because it is. You no longer measure progress by what you see. You measure it by what you know, and what you know is sacred, unshakable, and alive. The seed is beneath the soil, and that is enough for you. When you walk through your day as if your desire were already fulfilled, you are not pretending. You are participating in the unseen law that governs all creation. Assume the feeling, and the feeling will become fact. You are not shifting into your desired reality. You have already shifted, and now reality is catching up. More to follow. You begin to lose interest in arguing with the world, not because you've given up, but because you've risen above. There is no longer any need to convince others of your vision, for the vision has already convinced you. You no longer look for allies in your becoming. You've become your own confirmation. And this is another sign. The seventh sign is stillness amid chaos. When the winds howl and the waters rise, you remain unmoved, not because storms no longer come, but because you've remembered who commands them. The power you once thought was outside you, in fate or fortune or circumstance, you now know resides where it always has, in the citadel of your own imagination. You no longer pray to be rescued, you assume your throne. You no longer chase validation, you wear your crown. You no longer wonder if the shift is happening. You realize you are the shift. And as your inner world expands, the outer begins to rearrange itself with quiet obedience. You find yourself in places you once only dreamed of. You have conversations you once rehearsed in silence. You see glimpses of the world that belongs to the version of you who believed, and then you see more than glimpses. You see reality made flesh. And when doubt tries to return, as it often will, you do not fight it. You bless it. You smile at it like an old friend who has lost its grip. For you are no longer in the house of hesitation. You are dwelling in the land of decision. That is the eighth sign. Your decisions begin to align with your destiny. You say no to what no longer matches your identity, not out of pride, but out of clarity. You walk away from what no longer feels alive. You choose the higher road, even when the lower one begs for your attention. You are no longer seduced by the familiar. You are called by the real. You begin to value your inner world more than appearances. And that shift, quiet as it may be, is the very cornerstone of all lasting transformation. Because the shift is not merely about changing your world. It's about remembering that the world changes because of you. And that realization strikes like thunder in the soul. You become less concerned with what is and more enamored with what can be. You feel the energy of the new life, the new path, the new self building inside of you like a great tide ready to break. This is the ninth sign. A deep, unshakable faith begins to anchor you. Not borrowed faith, not secondhand belief, but faith born of experience. You've seen your thoughts ripple outward. You've watched your assumptions solidify into form. You've lived the evidence. And now no one can take that from you. Not even the old version of yourself. That version, the one who doubted, feared, waited, is fading. You may still hear its echo, feel its footsteps, catch its scent, but it no longer holds the pen. You are writing a new story, and this time you are not asking the world what is possible. You are telling it, and so the 10th sign emerges. You no longer identify with effort. You identify with embodiment. You no longer strive. You assume. You no longer push. You allow. You no longer wait. You live in the end. Because you've learned that the shift is not something you chase. It is something you become. And now, as you walk through the corridors of your life, you carry yourself differently, not with pride, but with presence, not with entitlement, but with authority, not with noise, but with knowing. The shift doesn't shout. It moves like the wind, silent, unseen, but undeniable. You feel it in your bones, in your breath, in the beat between your thoughts. You are not shifting into your desired reality. You have already arrived. And everything not aligned with that arrival begins to fall away, not because you fought it, but because you outgrew it. You are no longer the caterpillar trying to crawl. You are the butterfly with memory of the soil, but wings too vast to return to it. You are the proof that the unseen is real. You are the sign you once looked for, and now the world must conform. The world must conform. That is not a wish. It is not a request whispered into the stars. It is law, for the world is clay in the hands of the potter, and you, awakened one, are that potter. You are the craftsman of condition, the architect of experience, the unseen force behind all form. And when your inner state has changed, when your assumptions have ripened, the outer must yield. This is the 11th sign. Reality no longer argues with you. It echoes you. You say, I am, and life replies, yes. You move in certainty, and doors open before you touch the handle. You don't ask if the shift is happening. You watch the shift unfold around you like light pouring through cracks in a long closed ceiling. Coincidences increase, but you no longer call them coincidences. You know better now. You understand that what others call luck is law, that what they call magic is mind, that what they call impossible is only unfamiliar. You begin to walk as one who has seen behind the curtain, the performance. You no longer explain your transformation to those who cannot see it. You do not defend your peace. You do not argue your elevation. You do not beg to be understood. You've outgrown the need for permission. You've become sovereign. This is the 14th sign. You are no longer disturbed by disbelief. You understand now. Only the blind ask others to see for them. You see, you know. You walk by inner vision, not outer validation. Where once you were shaken by doubt, now you meet it like an old shadow. Familiar but powerless, you've crossed the inner threshold. You've made your home in the unseen. And as you rest there, you begin to feel something ancient rising within you, not emotion, but origin. A memory not of events, but of essence. The 15th sign, you remember who you truly are, not as concept, not as theory, not as spiritual poetry, but as raw, undeniable experience. You remember that you are not becoming anything, you are revealing everything. You remember that you are not moving toward a future self, you are collapsing into the one who has always been. You remember that there was never a gap between you and the desired life, only a veil. And now that veil thins. You find yourself speaking from the end, not about it, thinking as the one who already has, not hoping as the one who waits, acting not to convince, but to express. And now life moves differently, not because it changed, but because you did, because the outer is no match for the conviction of the inner, because the world will always conform to the self it perceives you to be. And now finally, it sees you as you see you. The shift was never external. The shift was never about objects, money, relationships, or recognition. Those are the ripples. You are the cause, the source, the dreamer awakening inside the dream. And now that you've remembered, now that you've returned, now that you've walked through fire and come out as gold, there is no going back. Not because it is forbidden, but because you've tasted what it means to live in alignment with your divine inheritance. And no imitation will ever satisfy you again. Now comes the final sign, the sign that seals the shift. You no longer fear the unknown. You no longer run from the silence between outcomes. You no longer beg for evidence to soothe the mind, because something deeper has taken over, something the world cannot give you and therefore can never take. A steady flame within, unshakable, unbothered, unmoved by appearances. You understand now what you call reality is nothing more than hardened imagination. What you call facts are but former fictions you once believed into form. And so you no longer war with shadows. You no longer curse the ground when you were born to plant heaven in it. You no longer question the laws you came here to embody. You speak with quiet authority. You walk with hidden power. You smile, not because life is easy, but because you know it is yours to command. And that is the final confirmation. You have become the version of you who does not wait for signs. You are the sign, the proof, the pattern, the point of power. You are no longer shifting. You have shifted. And every cell in your body knows it. Every step you take affirms it. Every breath you draw is evidence of the sacred yes that has already been spoken. The world now bows to your inner stance, not because it loves you, but because it has no choice. It is law. It is written. So when they ask how you knew, when they ask how it all turned, when they ask how the dream became real, you won't need to explain. You'll simply smile and say, I became it first. And now you walk differently, not faster, not louder, but with weight, with presence. The air recognizes you. Rooms feel your arrival. Time stretches to accommodate your awareness. You are no longer chasing the dream. You are animating it. You speak, and what you speak begins. You move, and what you move becomes real, not because you force, but because you align. The struggle is gone, not because challenges disappear, but because you no longer see them as opposition. You've outgrown the battlefield. You've discovered the architect's throne. Your desires no longer haunt you. They report to you. They kneel, obedient to the voice you've reclaimed. That voice, still, quiet, uncompromising. The voice that says, it is done. This is no longer theory, no longer words written in books or repeated in circles. This is the reality you wear, like skin. You feel yourself walking through moments that once lived only in imagination. And you no longer react with surprise, you respond with recognition. This is what it means to embody the end. This is what it means to become the prayer. This is what it means to return to the garden of your own soul and find that the seed you planted in faith has become the tree you now rest under. No more reaching, no more seeking, no more hoping, only knowing. And in that knowing, a peace beyond logic, a power beyond effort, a purpose beyond explanation. This is not a phase. This is not a coincidence. This is not luck. This is alignment. This is identity. This is the invisible becoming visible. Because you dared to believe in silence, because you dared to persist without applause, because you dared to talk to the universe like you knew it was listening. And now the universe listens for your next word. So now you no longer wait. You no longer knock at the door of reality. You walk through it. You breathe as the fulfilled. You think as the appointed. You live as the answer, not the question. And everything around you bends, subtly, silently, without resistance, to reflect the one truth you finally dared to trust. You are the cause, the center, the still point from which all motion begins. The signs that once whispered are now undeniable. The shift is no longer coming. It has come. It came the moment you stopped hoping and started knowing, the moment you fell in love with the unseen, the moment you trusted the feel of the invisible over the facts of the visible, the moment you spoke to the universe as if it were your mirror, because it is. And now the mirror speaks back. Now the world nods in agreement. Now your reflection moves, because you moved first. Let this be the moment you never forget, the moment you saw your world change, not through force, not through proof, but through identity. It was never about waiting for permission. It was always about remembering who you are. You are no longer becoming, you are. And from this moment forward, everything must obey the law you've awakened. Assume it, become it, and the world will follow. In stillness, in certainty, in silence, you shifted, and that is the sign. As I move forward in this shift, I become acutely aware that every moment is a message, a subtle whisper from the unseen. The signs come not in thunderous declarations, but in the quiet sighs of the universe rearranging itself to my newly assumed reality. The leaf that falls in perfect time, the glance of a stranger that stirs the heart, the echo of a phrase spoken long ago that now rings true, these are the markers of a transformation no eye can fully witness, but every soul recognizes. I understand that the world is not a place separate from me, but a mirror polished by the clarity of my imagining. Just as the artist bends the brush to the canvas, so does my consciousness shape the clay of existence. Every feeling, every thought, every conviction is the stroke that brings the unseen to life. This is no trivial magic, no fleeting hope. It is the architecture of reality itself. Like Edison, who saw the filament before it glowed, or Lincoln, who dreamed of a united nation before the war, I embody the unseen as though it were already made flesh. There is no room here for doubt, for hesitation is the thief that robs the vision of its power. Discipline becomes my ally, not as a harsh taskmaster, but as the steady heartbeat of faith in action. I do not waver because I do not entertain failure. I meet resistance not as a foe, but as a signpost redirecting me toward deeper understanding. The great builders of history knew that the storm is not the enemy, but the herald of change. Gratitude fills the space where anxiety once lived. I am grateful for every trial, every delay, every shadow, for they sharpen the edges of my belief and illuminate the path ahead. Like the farmer who trusts the seed beneath the soil, I know that the harvest is assured by the faith of my waiting. Purpose guides me as the North Star guides the sailor. Unwavering, luminous, inevitable. I am no longer a wanderer in a chaotic sea, but a captain steering toward a destination drawn by the compass of my conviction. My vision is not a mere wish, but a decree etched into the fabric of being. The signs of this shift are unmistakable. An effortless attraction to what I need, doors opening where walls once stood, an increasing harmony between my inner state and outer world. The shift is a current, unseen yet felt, a tide rising within that carries me toward the shore of my desire. And with this tide comes resilience, a refusal to be turned back by the storms of life. I stand unshaken because I know the strength within is greater than any circumstance without. Like the oak that bends but does not break, my roots sink deeper into the soil of certainty. Learning becomes my constant companion. Not learning from the world's definitions, but from the language of my own soul. Each experience is a lesson coded in the symbols of life, urging me to grow, to expand, to become more fully who I am meant to be. I am no longer a passive observer, but an active participant in the unfolding drama of existence. My words are spells, my thoughts are seeds. I speak to the universe with the authority of one who knows the secret. The shift is not an event, but a state of being. I dwell in this state, breathing it, living it, embodying it with every fiber of my being. The world responds because it cannot resist the force of a soul aligned. It bends, it yields, it conforms, not to the power of will, but to the power of knowing. This knowing is the quiet storm that reshapes mountains and carves rivers. It is the invisible hand that moves history. It is the essence of the shift. I recognize it now in the small miracles, the perfect timing, the synchronistic encounters, the sudden clarity after confusion. These are the footprints of the shift walking beside me, reassuring me that the world is indeed answering the call of my imagined self. To live within this shift is to live beyond fear and limitation. It is to claim the throne of one's own mind and reign with the certainty that what is imagined is real. This is the birthright of every soul, the legacy of the great creators before me, the promise carried forward in every heartbeat. And so I speak to the universe not as a petitioner, but as a sovereign. I claim the reality I see in the mind's eye and watch as the world becomes its faithful reflection. This is the power of the shift, the ultimate alchemy turning thought into form, desire into destiny. This is how I know the shift is happening, because I no longer ask if it will come, I live as if it already has. The shift reveals itself not in grand proclamations, but in the subtle currents that change the very atmosphere of my being. It is the gentle yet unyielding force that pulls the fabric of reality toward the image I cherish in silence. I notice the nuances, the easing of burdens once heavy, the arrival of opportunities that feel like old friends, the unfolding of events with an uncanny precision that defies chance. I realize now that the universe speaks to me in the language of feeling. It answers the mood I carry, the conviction I nurture deep within. This is not mere wishful thinking, but the deliberate act of embodying my desire so fully that the outer world has no choice but to conform. The same power that moved the hands of Da Vinci, that shaped the dreams of Carnegie and the resolve of Ford, moves through me now. To shift into the reality I desire demands a clarity so sharp it cuts through doubt like a sword. It requires a faith so vast it can weather the fiercest storms of skepticism and despair. This clarity is not intellectual but visceral, rooted in the deep knowing that what I seek is already mine, waiting in the wings of my imagination to step forward into the light. I learn to discern the whispers of the unseen realm, the subtle signs that the shift is underway, a smile from a stranger that warms the heart without reason, a sudden insight that dissolves confusion, a moment of perfect stillness amidst chaos. These are the markers, the sacred footprints of transformation. Discipline is the sculptor of this process, like the masters of old who forged empires from nothing but vision and relentless effort. I cultivate the habit of returning to the scene within my mind where my desire lives. I do this not once or twice, but repeatedly, until the imagined reality becomes more vivid than the world around me. Gratitude flows naturally from this practice, for I am thankful not only for what is, but for what is becoming. This gratitude is not a passive feeling, but a dynamic force that magnetizes my intention. It is the invisible hand that draws the threads of my imagined world into the loom of my present. Purpose emerges as a blazing flame, illuminating the path through uncertainty. I am no longer adrift, but anchored by a cause greater than circumstance. This purpose fuels resilience, the unwavering resolve to hold fast to the vision even when the senses plead otherwise. In this state, adaptability is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to strength. I bend like the reed in the wind, allowing life's changes to shape me without breaking my will. This flexibility is the secret weapon of those who master the shift, for it enables them to navigate the unknown with grace and power. I embrace learning as the gateway to mastery. Every challenge, every delay, every unexpected turn is a lesson encoded with wisdom. I decode these messages with an open heart and a mind sharp as a blade, transforming obstacles into stepping stones. Action, when aligned with this inner state, becomes effortless yet unstoppable. It is not forced or frantic, but measured and deliberate, born of a certainty that moves mountains. I walk forward with the conviction of Lincoln crossing the battlefield, of Edison pushing through endless nights, of every great soul who knew the price of their vision. The signs of my shift intensify, doors open without struggle, connections form with ease. My thoughts and feelings harmonize with the rhythm of creation. This is no accident. It is the natural consequence of living as the reality I wish to embody. I no longer ask, when will it happen, but declare, It is happening now. This shift is a living thing, breathing and pulsing through every fiber of my existence. It moves beyond time and space, transcending the limits of the senses. To inhabit this new reality fully, I must relinquish old identities, the fears, the doubts, the stories that kept me confined. This shedding is painful but necessary, like the serpent casting its skin to reveal a brighter self beneath. It is through this death and rebirth that the shift gains its power. I become the alchemist of my own destiny, transmuting thought into form, desire into reality. This is the secret held by the greatest creators, the invisible law that governs all transformation. It is the law I now wield with unwavering confidence. The universe bends not to whim, but to the weight of my inner conviction. It does not negotiate with hesitation, but responds to the clarity of my imagining. This is the sacred dance between mind and matter, the eternal dialogue of creation. And so I walk boldly into this new world, eyes fixed on the horizon of my desire. I know the signs, the subtle shifts, the synchronistic encounters, the inner peace that precedes outer change. They are the heralds of my becoming. In this knowledge I find freedom, not the freedom of chance, but the freedom of one who commands the unseen and calls forth the tangible. I stand as the master of my reality, the creator of my fate, the architect of the impossible. This is how I know the shift is real, because I live it with every breath and the world around me answers. I stand now at the threshold of what once seemed unattainable, the very ground beneath my feet humming with the energy of possibility. The shift is no longer a distant dream, but the unfolding reality that courses through my veins like fire. It is the unbreakable thread weaving together the tapestry of my existence, binding my deepest desires with the immutable laws of creation. This moment, the here and now, is the culmination of all my unseen labors, the silent conversations in the stillness of night, the unwavering faith when shadows loomed large. It is the victory born not of luck or chance, but of steadfast knowing. Like Lincoln, who held fast to the promise of a united nation through the darkest days, or Edison, who saw the dawn of light in the flicker of countless failures, I too claim my triumph through endurance and vision. I feel the universe answering with a chorus of subtle signs, a door held open without effort, a thought manifesting into reality, a path illuminated that once was shrouded in doubt. These are not mere coincidences, but the undeniable language of the invisible realm, speaking directly to the soul that dared to believe. It is here, in this sacred dialogue, that the essence of the shift reveals itself most profoundly. To walk fully into this new reality demands a final surrender, a relinquishing of all that no longer serves the vision I carry. It is the death of old fears, the dismantling of limiting beliefs, the shedding of identities forged in the fires of past struggle. This is the rebirth through which I emerge, shining brighter and more radiant than before, a living testament to the power of inner transformation. Gratitude floods my being, not as a fleeting feeling, but as the very foundation of my existence. It is the force that binds me to the unfolding miracle, the acknowledgement that every step, every breath, every heartbeat is part of the grand design orchestrated by my own imagining. With gratitude as my compass, I move forward with grace, humility, and unwavering resolve. Purpose now burns within me like an eternal flame, illuminating the path ahead with unyielding clarity. I am no longer a wanderer, but a sovereign architect of my destiny, guided by a vision so vivid it eclipses all doubt. This purpose fuels resilience, that indomitable spirit which rises after every fall, stronger and more certain than before. I bend, but do not break. adapting to the changing currents of life with wisdom and strength. Like the great rivers carving their way through mountains, I flow around obstacles, shaping my course with gentle persistence and relentless determination. This adaptability is the secret strength of those who master the shift. They do not resist life's tempests, but dance with them, emerging victorious every time. Learning becomes my lifelong companion, each challenge a teacher cloaked in disguise. I embrace these lessons with an open heart and an eager mind, for in them lie the keys to deeper mastery. Every failure, every delay, every unexpected turn is but a stepping stone on the path to my fulfilled desire. Action flows naturally from this inner alignment, not hurried, not forced, but deliberate and powerful. It is the rhythm of creation itself, the outward expression of an unwavering inner conviction. I move forward with the patience of the gardener and the certainty of the sculptor, knowing that every effort shapes the masterpiece of my life. The signs grow stronger still. The synchronicities, the coincidences, the quiet confirmations whispered in moments of stillness. They are the universe's way of affirming my alignment, the sacred signals that I am indeed becoming the reality I have long envisioned. I no longer doubt, for the evidence is all around me, visible to the eyes of faith and the heart of certainty. I claim this shift with all that I am. It is not a fleeting moment, but a transformation that courses through every fiber of my being, reshaping my world from the inside out. The power to create, to change, to transcend lies not in some distant place, but within me, always has, always will. As I stand in this truth, I know the greatest journey is complete. The journey into myself, into the boundless creative force that births worlds, that moves mountains, that commands the very fabric of existence. This is the secret held by the ancients, whispered by the sages, lived by the great ones, and now it is mine. I walk forward with the certainty of the masters, the clarity of the visionaries, the strength of the warriors of light. The shift is not a destination, but a way of being, a living, breathing reality that I embody every moment, every breath. This is the sacred dance of creation. This is how I shift into my desired reality. This is how I claim my power and change my world forever. The universe listens, and I speak with the voice of the infinite. And so I rest not in waiting, but in knowing. I do not reach, I receive. I do not chase, I choose. The moment I dared to feel it real, the unseen began to move. And with every breath I take in this knowing, the bridge builds beneath my feet. I no longer search for signs, I am the sign. The mirror of my world reflects what I have already accepted as mine. There is no delay, no distance, no denial, only the alignment of assumption and appearance. I have shifted, not because the world changed, but because I did. The old self dissolved in the silence, and in its place stands the one I have always been, the creator clothed in flesh, the dreamer awake inside the dream. I walk now in full awareness, not as one hoping, but as one possessing, and the universe bows, as it always does, to the one who dares to assume the throne within. It is done, and now I no longer question the shift. I no longer measure the world to decide if it has happened. I no longer beg the mirror to smile first. I simply know, and that knowing becomes flesh. I walk through my day with quiet power, with invisible certainty. I do not need to see it with my eyes, because I have already seen it with my spirit. The outer is catching up. The unseen has already responded. I no longer ask, is it working? I no longer wait for signs. I am the sign. The change is not outside of me. It is not in the movement of men, nor the arrangement of events. The shift is internal, and once it takes root there, the world must echo it. I carry myself differently. I think from the outcome, not of it. I do not touch the desire with trembling fingers. I wear it, and as I persist, the world bends, quietly, obediently, inevitably. The shift is not loud. It does not always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it comes with stillness, a peace you can't explain, a calm in the center of the storm, a whisper that says, "You've done it. It's yours now." And when you feel that, truly feel it, you have crossed the line from longing to living, from wanting to being. This is the sign you have shifted, and there's no going back.